I read the book, The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck, and I've talked to some people who didn't find it as enlightening as I did, and it was very weird for me that they didn't, because I took it as an eye-opening roller coaster of emotions and of experiences, written in a funny way that I would continue to be interested in. And obviously the core thing about the book is knowing that you have a limited amount of fucks that you can give, and knowing when to use them and when not to, and to reprioritize things that you think are important for things that actually are important. And I took it to heart, and I read that book, and I love that book. And one of the things that I took from it and that I've been utilizing in my day-to-day life is giving a fuck about things that you can control versus giving fucks to things that you can't control. And I have this conversation with friends, some family members, stuff like that, every now and again, and I think that it's a tried and true thought process. And the idea obviously behind it is that, you hear all the time, or you read all the time, that you can't control other people's actions, you just control how you react to it, or something like that. And I think that's accurate. And I think that people who constantly try to control every aspect of everything that goes on in their life, and that includes the people who they can't control, I think people who drown themselves in that thought process are the ones that end up severely depressed and anxious and not knowing what to do and needing guidance, because they feel out of control. And I understand that fully, because I used to be one of those people. It's one of the reasons why people get piercings, tattoos, haircuts. They change their clothing line style. They do all these random things so they can feel some level of control. And I understand that. So my advice to people is, look at what you can control and put your energy into those things, as opposed to the things that you can't control. For me, I realize that I just gotta roll with a lot of shit. Whether I want to roll with it or not, I kind of have to, because I don't want to move backwards. I want to constantly move forward. And that's a big thing for me, is that I don't want to go backwards. For all intents and purposes, I can't go backwards. A lot of the bridges that would allow me to go backwards, I've either intentionally or unintentionally burned, and for better or for worse, it's gotten me to where I'm at now, and it's gotten me into this mentality of surviving by going forward. I can't take back anything that I've done or anything that I've said, but I mentioned this in one of my other videos, there's a silver lining in my mind to almost any action that happens. So I want to find that silver lining, and I want to utilize it to make me a better person for the future and learn from it. Because if I'm not learning, then what am I doing? Learning is so crucial to being a human being and feeling and growing, that I pretty much try to prioritize that first and foremost. So that's why I feel that people who feel so out of control, if you do feel that way, what you should try to do is to take a step back, look at all the things that you have control over, and focus on those things. If you got a girlfriend or boyfriend that's mad at you, and you're trying to talk to them, you're trying to reconcile it, and they're not listening to it, listen, man, you can't control how they feel, and they're entitled to feel however they want to feel. Free will, people. I don't believe that we technically have it, but free will. They are able to feel how they want to feel. If your job that you're working at is not giving you the promotion that you think that you deserve, don't stress over that. You can't control that. You just continue to do what you need to do in hopes that it's one of the pieces of the puzzle that falls into place. And I think that everything's kind of a puzzle. Albeit it's probably way more complicated than that, but to put it in a simpler term that's easier to digest, everything's a puzzle. I don't believe everything happens for a reason, but everything's a puzzle. And there's certain pieces that you have to put on the table for other pieces to start to connect to it. And when you start realizing those connections, life gets easier to understand. Because I feel like there's a lot of questions that we just don't have the answers to, that I don't think we'll ever really have the answers to. And this is a way to control that a little bit more for ourselves, regardless of what you believe or whatever. You know, it's giving you some of your power back, so to speak. So if you're somebody who's stressing over other people's actions and these outer forces that you can't manipulate in your favor, don't worry about them. Don't let them stress you, you know? And if you find someone who you can bounce this stuff off of, keep that person around. Because there's not a lot of people who will generally bounce off of you. They'll listen, or correction, they'll hear you, but they won't necessarily listen. And if they're willing to bounce it off you and make you think and say, yeah, but what if? And it starts to really get your mind going, keep them around. That's a good person right there. That's a good friend. So, yeah. Figure out how many fucks you have to give throughout the day and put them towards things that matter and people that matter. And everything will turn out alright, I think.